Before the dealer deals, he almost dives onto the table, pushes my chips out of the circle and goes, "No action." And everyone stops. This guy's a pro, this guy's a pro, this guy's a pro. I go, "What about them?" He goes, "They're okay."
I'm calling from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined by Anthony Curtis. Anthony is a former professional card counter and blackjack tournament expert. He then parlayed his gambling success into starting both the Las Vegas Advisor and Huntington Press, the #1 publisher for professional gambling books. Anthony is also a winner of the prestigious Blackjack Ball Tournament and a member of the Blackjack Hall of Fame. Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, man.
You were just on 60 Minutes. Can you tell us what the story was there?
Yeah, but before I do, let me make the point that being on 60 Minutes is nothing like being here on this podcast. This is the one I've been sweating about and thinking about.
I'm sure that's
actually not. The 60 Minutes thing was like, woo, wow. But it was about the MGM hack. They called me up because I asked them. I said, "Why are you calling me?" I said, "I don't have anything to do with the hack. I'm not a hacker. I'm not a coder." They said, "No, we just want, some Vegas information. We want background." And I happened to be there at Aria that night, the night it hit. I was eating dinner with Previn Mancote. Some guys know who he is. Card counter from way back, advantage player extraordinaire. And that was what it was about. And they wanted to talk to me in general just about Vegas and how it affected MGM and, that kind of background.
So there were two hacks. There was MGM and there was Caesars. And Caesars paid the ransom, but MGM did not. Any idea why they each chose the decision they did?
That was one of the things we discussed, is why would they do it? And, I got into a lot of the stuff that I talked about that didn't make air because they don't have enough time was sort of EV related. And I said, they both did their calculations and made a decision. And MGM took to heart what the feds said. FBI says, don't give it to them, don't give it to them. That's their party line. Caesar said, "Phooey on you, we're going to give it to them." And they're like, "Well, what would you have done? What do you think, who was right?" I go, "Well, let's see, 15 million ransom, 115 million in damages." So really, when you look at the bottom line, Caesars, by capitulating, probably, did the right thing when you look at it that way.
Do you think by paying the ransom, Caesar set a bad precedent?
Well, that's the argument. That's the whole argument about the thing. Is that you can't keep paying because they're going to keep doing it. But, they're going to keep doing it anyway. And you're in that position. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do. The other point I made, not that I'm, supporting them, not that I'm envious of them. I am somewhat, I am envious of their skills. But I said it's much like advantage players in gambling. That, the people who are perpetrating it are better than the people who are trying to stop it. And I said, that's what we find out a lot is the players are better than security. And in this case, the hackers were better than the cybersecurity.
I don't know if you saw this, but MGM just sued the FTC.
Saw that.
To block the probe into the impact of the data security of the hack. Why do you think they're suing to stop it?
I thought about that, and I have no idea. I really don't know. I think that somehow they feel that it will, shine a bad light on them somehow, for what they were able. I think if I had to make one guess, I would say that the level of the incursion was so great that you got to wonder what kind of fools were behind this. And I think they don't want to look bad. That's my guess.
Interesting.
Speculation.
I wonder, this is total speculation too, but if MGM has more data on people than they're supposed to.
There's a very good chance of that. You hear about all these things all the time. Go back to like Tom Brady with his cell phone. And Tom Brady didn't want anybody listening to his cell phone. Why? Because you don't know what's on there, right? And same thing. They don't want anybody looking into the damage is done. Let's get past it. And let's not let people, see us with our pants down, right?
Any idea what the hackers would want with the information, or was it just simply to get a ransom? Well,
a lot of it, that I gleaned from talking to other people was that the ransom is paramount. They want to get paid. That's it. They want to get paid. The other thing is they want to have the data. They can do stuff with data. And what they actually do with that data, I'm not sure. And that's what's interesting is because MGM did not pay off. So they still have data. So are they going to come back and is that data going to end up out there and there are going to be more lawsuits and more and more and more? This may not be over for MGM.
Yeah.
Not that I'm crying for them, part of the evil empire, MGM, Caesars,
Yeah.
Station, I mean, these guys, they're not my buds, but they're in a tough spot.
Well, and even Caesars, they paid, but how do they know that the hackers don't still sell their data to the black market?
That's the other thing. That's a big quandary, I mean, they've still got the stuff, right?
Yeah.
So are there honor among thieves? I don't know. I doubt it. What comes out about all this though is these hackers, they're like kids. I mean, there are some of them as young as 12 and 13 years old, I think, and almost all of them in the scattered spider group, which was the U.S. component, are all under 21. They're 21 or under. They're just teenagers.
Wow.
And they hook up with the Black Cat guys. Black Cat in Russia, who knows how to orchestrate this stuff. And these are just little kids being led by the nose and show us your stuff.
Wow.
Amazing.
Any idea how this ends up affecting Vegas or gambling in general?
Well, it's affecting gambling, the casinos everywhere. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to affect the players. It affected things when the people who were there at that time, they couldn't get into their rooms. They couldn't get out of the parking garages. Everything was down. You couldn't use credit cards. Everything was cash. None of the people couldn't cash out. They couldn't get their Tito tickets out. So people who are gamblers, regular, the customers, the normal gamblers are going to be affected more than anybody on that. But the casino industry very much affected. There have been others under the radar, not been talked about already since the MGM hack. I've heard of 2 or 3 others across the country, smaller casinos that have been shut down for weeks.
So what are casinos doing in response?
Well, they're trying to beef up their security, but they're just so far behind. So anyway, so that was a big 60 Minutes deal, and it was cool. The funny thing at the end of it is just out of nowhere, they asked me to do a card counting demonstration. And they're filming everything, I'm like, yeah, sure, give me a deck. And, so I did it. And it felt good, felt like I had everything covered, right? But I told them, I said, before you air this, if you air this anywhere, I want to look at it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I didn't get something transposed backwards, something, whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. It'd be really easy to say something. We went to Penn and Teller last night, me and my buddy helping us film here. And, Penn Jillette said things backwards a few times on accident, and maybe he caught himself or maybe he didn't, because that's just, right. It's just very natural. And I was telling you that before we were airing that.
Right.
And you said that you had a story. You sat next
you want to hear my Penn Jillette story?
I do. I want to hear it.
This is back, 15, 20 years ago. And I used to do a lot of traveling between LA and Vegas. So I'm getting on a plane. I'm getting on Southwest. And on Southwest, it's all, open boarding. And I'm late, as usual. And I'm running, and I just make it. I've had, 2 or 3 Heinekens with the boys on the way out, going, I'm going to LA for business and pleasure. Let's have a couple beers, that kind of thing. Get on the plane. I'm the last one. It's full. There's one seat, middle seat. Some guy over here on the window, and Penn Jillette on the aisle. And I look all around. I'm like, I don't want to sit next to that guy. I don't know why, but I'm just like, I don't want to. I'm looking around. There's no, and the stewardess comes over. She goes, "Sir, have a seat." She goes, "You're the last one on the plane." So I sit down next to Penn, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not gonna say anything to him. I'm not gonna be that guy, right? I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna talk to him. I don't care. I'm not gonna talk to him. And so we take off. I order another Heineken, right? This is another short flight, right? Short flight just to LA. And Penn reaches down into his his sock, or like a sock pocket or something, and he pulls out a deck of cards. And he starts going through his moves. Boom, boom, boom. He's doing his moves. And I'm drinking the Heineken, and I'm thinking, hell with it, right? So finally I go, hey. I go, I've watched a lot and everything else, and he doesn't look up. He just keeps going. I said, you're really great with cards and everything else. I said, you ever get into card counting in any way? Keeps going. Doesn't acknowledge. Doesn't, like nobody was there. Nobody said anything to him. Goes for about 15 seconds, and I'm starting to stew. Now I'm really mad. Not at him. I'm mad at me. Right? Because I'm like, don't talk to this guy, right? These Hollywood, prima donnas do not. All of a sudden, he's done. It's probably 20 seconds. And I just keep looking at him because I'm pissed, right? And he puts the cards down, and he puts his big pen head in my face real close, and he goes, "Doesn't work," and goes back to his cards, right? He just screams at me. He goes, "Doesn't work."
No way.
Boom, boom, boom. And I go, "Yeah, it does." I go, "What are you talking about? It doesn't work." I go, "Where does that come from?" And now he's engaged, right? He goes, "Look," he goes, "what's your edge when you're playing blackjack, when you're counting cards? What's your edge? 1.5%, 2%? I go, 0.75% maybe. He goes, "That's my point." He goes, "Why would I play a game at 0.75% when I can put my money in the stock market and get 11 to 12% annual?" I said, "Annual."
Yeah.
I go, "One time, right? 10 to 12%. I said, "How about 0.75%? How about 0.5%? Again and again and again and again and again and again and again, compounded with winnings, compounded again and again and again and again." And I'm doing this, and I'm going right at him, right on the plane. And he's like, and I swear to God, to his credit, I could just see the light bulb go off in his head. And he's like, "Whoa." He goes, "Yeah, okay." He goes, "Now I get it." And we started talking, right? And he started asking me some questions, and I started talking. Right? Took up the whole flight. We got there. He gets up. He hands me his card. He goes, "I'm sorry about the way that started, but I meet so many jack-offs on airplanes," right? And I'm like feeling good about myself. And I look back at the guy who's been through the whole thing, never said a word. He looks at me and he shakes his head. He goes, "That was awesome." So that was my Penn Jillette story. He later invited me on his show, Bullshit. And I did something there. They asked me to make odds on something.
That's
and he was
awesome.
very cool. I later saw him again in other social things. Met his wife, told her the story. So not that he and I were buzz and hung out, but I did get to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Vegas in general. What's new that people might not be aware of?
The new stuff is Fontainebleau and Durango. I mean, those two places, they're the first casinos to open really in a couple of years. They're both beautiful. Durango is typical Station stuff, but not as good. I mean, Station has been tightening up and everything. Somebody clandestinely gave me a few sheets of paper that they're handing out to the dealers at Station to teach them to count cards.
Really?
Yeah, Station is they're bad, man.
Wow.
They're bad news. I'll get to that in a minute. Durango, absolutely gorgeous place, just beautiful. Food court is fantastic. They got some really good restaurants in there. Shang Artisan Noodle, one of the best Chinese places in town. There's one on Flamingo. They opened one there. The games, though, it's the worst set of video poker rules I've seen at a Station casino in history. The best they have there is 8-5 bonus poker. They don't have a single thing over 99.2%, which sounds good, but for Station, that's not really so great. But back anyway, I looked. I said, "Can you give me those sheets? Let me take a look at it." Pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Pretty dumb. You know what they gave? First of all, they explain the edges and all of that the counters can get, and they were like way off. They were way inflated. Second, they talked about bedspread necessary and things that was inflated and wrong. Then what they told them to learn was there was no emphasis on learning basic strategy. They gave them they mentioned basic strategy and says you need to know it. And then they gave them a list of the illustrious 18 with strike changes, for high-low, and said, this is what you need to recognize when they change at these numbers. I'm like, come on, that's just dumb.
Yeah.
But
there's no way a dealer can deal well. I mean, honestly, they're probably making more payout mistakes trying to keep a running count and look for deviations.
And they're supposed to represent they're supposed to be happy and friendly. They're supposed to represent the casino. I mean, they do a lot better teaching their dealers to smile and be friendly and let somebody else, let the eye in the sky do their job.
And what about the other one, Fontainebleau?
Fontainebleau, they don't know what they want to be when they grow up. You know what I mean? I don't know what growing up for them is going to be, making it through a year maybe. I don't know. It's just one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen. It's gorgeous, but there's nobody playing there. Their games are lousy. They've got some reasonable games in the high limit room at $500 minimums. So, they're not going to get the general public on that. The games for everything 6 to 5 out in the pit with, the regular games. Video poker, they only have one bar with video poker. They've got 36 bars and restaurants there. I don't know how many of them are bars, probably half of them to 20 or so. And only one, which is a sportsbook bar, has even a video poker, tabletops.
Wow.
So, or bar tops. They just don't know what they want to be. They want to be a fancy hotel. They don't want to be a casino. They don't want to be a casino with a lot of good amenities. They want to be a fancy hotel with a casino, and that's what they're going to end up being.
At least Durango, because it's off strip. Maybe it's more for locals. Mm-hmm. I've played in there. Blackjack game's good.
Yeah, decent from what I saw.
Yeah, and it is nice.
Yeah, I don't know how sweaty they are or anything. You would comment on that?
No comment. But Fontainebleau, I'm not even going to bother. Checking it out because everything I hear is that the games are terrible.
Well, they are on the floor. Like I said, they got some good games in high limit. They got some, 0.2, 0.3 percenters in there.
Yeah.
So they got some decent games. So if you got that kind of bankroll and you can play through that, then they got some good games there.
I have to get a big boy bankroll together to play some $500 minimums.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've played those stakes.
That's right. But, on the other end of the spectrum, the thing that I'm loving right now, across the street somewhat from Fontainebleau is you got the old Slots of Fun is back. They put in table games there. They're terrible. Crummy rolls and all 8-deckers, 6 to 5, that kind of thing. But at the bar, they've got $2. They got like a $2 thing at the bar. $2 beers, Heineken, $2 Heineken. Now that's where I used to go. Peter Griffin would come to town, the mathematician theory of blackjack. And Peter would call me up and we would either go to the Horseshoe or we would go to Slots of Fun for 50-cent Heinekens. And we would sit at the bar and do that. So it was nostalgic for me to go there and get a $2 Heineken, which is a big deal this year.
Yeah.
I mean, these days, in these times. But also $2 hot dogs, $2 shrimp cocktail, all at the bar 24/7. And old, this won't affect a lot of people, but old coin dropper machines. So people who want to play slot machines, when they hear the coins, they don't get the Tito tickets. They put that in, so they're going for the nostalgia thing, which I think is cool. I like that.
That's the first casino I ever walked into when I came to Vegas for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, walked in there, and my buddy that he was on my first blackjack team, he's like, "Oh yeah, you spread to green here, and you're gonna get backed off." Oh, yeah. But I got I think it was a $1 foot-long hot dog. Mm-hmm. Took one bite, threw it away.
Oh man, I ate it all. Man, I ate it all. That's when I was running around. I mean, this is when you were probably still in grade school or something. When I was running around there, and I'd go get the $1 foot long, and that was breakfast and lunch.
I can imagine. I don't know if you heard that all MGMs. This came out on April 1st. All MGMs are getting rid of 6 to 5 and free parking again. And then it turns out it was an April Fool's joke. Oh,
God, I was going to say baloney. Yeah, I just clocked the April 1 there that you said.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be, sure. That ain't never going to happen, man. I can guarantee it.
When a friend told me about it, he didn't say the April 1st part. He just starts telling me, and I started getting a little bit like, really? They're rolling back the 6 to 5? No, April Fools.
Yeah. That one I would have caught on to right away. I'd say there's absolutely no chance on earth with those guys.
Any other casinos that they plan on opening in the next year or two?
It's going to be a while, and it's going to be the next one that might open will be this one they call Dream. Dream. Sounds to me like another Fontainebleau, to be honest. Though it's Dream is a hotelier brand that is a more upscale brand out of L.A. and other area and New York, and I believe, and they have bought land and they've gotten all of their go-aheads and everything else from the counties and everything. But I don't know about that one. I think if I had to pick one that for sure was going to be, it's going to be the Fertitta one on Harmon, like sort of at the south end of the strip. So that's the same Fertitta who owns the Golden Nugget downtown, not the Fertitta brothers from Station Casino, their cousin, Tillman Fertitta. So as far as things changing, going back, to the good ways, it's going to be a tough thing. Yeah. I mean, they tried to do it at Downtown Grand. They put in those, the $25 mini tournaments, both blackjack and video poker. They've got the $2 hot dog and beer down there right now. That's still there, but the mini tournaments have been stopped. The guy who did all that has left.
Okay.
They went back to the pencil pushers, and the pencil pushers are slowly taking it back to the shithole that it was, and it's going back in that direction.
I should have asked you, but the Fontainebleau who owns it? Is it owned by a chain?
It's the guy who owns the New York guy who owns the one down in Miami.
Okay.
Stauffer is his name or something. Stouffer.
Okay.
I think it's Sofer, Soffer or something like that. He was the one who originally started it. He lost it, in all the bad financial times. It went to, changed hands a couple of times. Carl Icahn had it for a while, and it came all the way, around circle back to him, and he bought it and acquired it back and opened it.
Okay.
I hear they're doing terribly. I hear they're doing very bad.
Wow, interesting. Maybe they should put some decent games in there.
Well, yeah, maybe they should be a gambling. Maybe it should be a casino.
Yeah.
And some of these places shouldn't be so, so worried that they've got to dig everything out of it. And that's what happened at Downtown Grand, is they looked at margins. Nobody was ever in that place. All of a sudden, they had a bunch of people in that place. It was full. People were playing games. People were, at the bars. Really good video poker there for quarters. They have a progressive double-double game that's almost always at 100% or higher at the Furnace Bar. But they were giving good games. And so their margins were smaller. And all these guys looked at it, the accountants looked at it and said, well, everyone else is holding this and we're holding this. So this is bad. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You're holding
full.
this of nothing.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
So and I just don't see it changing in Vegas anytime soon.
Yeah. When we went in for Penn and Teller, we walked through Rio on a Friday night at 8 p.m. and it was dead.
Yeah, but watch out for Rio. Rio's another, that was actually where I was going to go next, is that if I was to look at anything that it was going to be the next one to start doing better, I think the Rio has got it in their mind to do that.
Okay.
And that comes from them wanting to work with us with our member rewards for Las Vegas Advisor.
Okay.
And I mean, this deal that they gave us right now, first of all, their room rates there are low. They're very low. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're at like 45, 60 level. So they give us 30% off room rates and waiver of the resort fee.
That's a big
deal. $40 a night.
Yeah.
That resort fee is $42 a night. So you're taking a 60, and you're taking $20 off that. So you got $40 or $42 or something, and no resort fee.
Yeah,
it's a great place to stay.
Yeah.
And they're renovating everything there. They're putting in $365 million into the joint to renovate. So yeah, don't sleep on the Rio or sleep on the Rio. I mean, it's going to be a good play, or it is a good play already.
Have any casinos in Vegas changed hands as far as ownership in the last year?
I wouldn't say in the last year, but in the last couple of years, like the main one being Hard Rock, from Mirage to Hard Rock. And that finally, the transition there is starting to take place. They've announced the closing of Love, the Beatles show Love. That will close July 7th. And that really does signal, okay, we're in action. We're going to make the switch over. So Siegfried and Roy's, Garden and Dolphin Habitat already closed. Love is going to close next. Next will be the Volcano will be shut down.
Wow.
And they'll start to build the hotel, guitar-shaped hotel. And that will be a switchover. They're trying to court locals here too, which means they might be open to any kind of subsets. The Mirage run by the Seminole Indian tribe, similar to the Palms being run by the Yamava people, right? San Manuel. Mm-hmm. They're used to dealing, to giving a better gamble to their customers. Not that the Palms is all that great, but it's not bad. And I think we might see some good things at the Mirage.
At soon to be Hard Rock.
Yeah, as it goes farther and farther to become the Hard Rock.
How's this change in ownership going to affect maybe if you've been trespassed at Mirage?
Great question. I honestly don't know. I've known of it happening both ways, where there's been a switchover and somebody who was trespassing the former owner is now fine. And others where they're like, no, under the priors, you were not allowed here, right? Now, I just talked out of the blue, I talked to Bob Nersessian yesterday, and he made me aware, I missed this, that apparently there's a statute now that after 2 years, they expunge it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's going on with trespass? I'm way behind the curve on this.
Yeah, no, for someone like me, it's really interesting.
Yeah, rev up the career again, right?
In any of the places that it's like, do I really want to push it? Someone like Tommy Highland, sure he'll
Tommy, he never
he would say, we were asking, We were at dinner the other night, and a friend said, "How many times have you been trespassed there?" I don't want to say the name of the property. And he's like, "Oh, 20."
Yeah, I was just going to say Tommy doesn't care. He'll
But
go right in there, and they'll come up and say, "Aren't you not allowed here?" And he'd be go, "Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
get up and leave."
Well, then why do you keep inviting me back
Yeah,
via
exactly
email?
right.
Yeah.
Tommy has no fear. I mean, I'll tell you what, you should get Tommy Highland shirts that just say "no fear." I mean, he doesn't care.
But for those of us that have been more cautious about somewhere we've been trespassed, 2 years and it's expunged.
I've not really been trespassed. I've never been trespassed, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I've been told not to play. I've been backed off, many, many times. Never been trespassed, so I can go in anywhere. And a few times I've tried to play, I'll tell you, it blows up real fast. I mean, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm just screwing around. And I mean, I'm telling you, one time it was New Year's Eve. We're at the Orleans, I don't mind saying it. And it's like 20 minutes to New Year's Eve. And for some reason, there were a bunch of guys I knew there, that were players who were pros. And they were like, everyone's having beers and whatever. They go, "Let's go sit down, let's go play." I go, "Guys, I'm hot." They're like, "You ain't nothing. It's fine, let's go play." I go, "Come on." They go, "Look, we're going to play low. We're going to take it easy, right?" So we sit down, everyone's playing nickels. And it's a double deck, and it just goes sky high. It just goes through the roof. And all of a sudden, here come hundreds, right? Just out of thin air, right? The hundreds are coming down on the table, including me, right? And I look up and I see a pit boss, and it's like a slow motion movie where he starts running towards the table, right? And before the dealer deals, he almost dives onto the table, pushes my chips out of the circle and goes, "No action." And everyone stops. This guy's a pro, this guy's a pro, this guy's a pro. I go, "What about them?" He goes, "They're okay."
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, sky high $100 bet. That's like $3 of EV, and he's about to dive across the pit.
I know. And everybody's trying to have restraint. I mean, well, we all bought in for like $40.
Yeah.
So everyone's reaching in their pocket. This is all paper.
Yeah.
Right? It's all paper coming out on the table. But yeah, and it's only me.
Yep.
Right? Like I'm some sort of ATM machine or something. I just pull it out or something.
Yeah,
I'm like, these guys are better than me. What are you talking about?
You got to be the most well-known former AP in Vegas.
Too much TV, man. Too much TV.
Hey, what about the baseball stadium? So Tropicana it's already shut down. It's getting blown up, and they're going to build the Las Vegas Athletics Stadium there. How do you think that's going to affect the Strip?
Oh, I think it's going to be gross, man. It's going to be gross because of the traffic.
That's what I was thinking. I looked it up. It's about 30,000 people on average attend a baseball game.
Yeah. Well, what about when they have overlap? What about when they've got, I don't know how much the Raiders and the Knights, football, hockey, and baseball are going to overlap. There's going to be some overlap. But what about concerts? Yeah. And what about all the different things? And I mean, it's maddening to try to go through the south end of the Strip when there's anything happening at T-Mobile or Allegiant or, God forbid, both. Now, what about when you get all of them in action? It's ridiculous, and I don't really know why they did it. I mean, certainly certain financial things and all of that. They were going to do it at the Rio. Oh, that would have been great. It's like right across the street from my office. I would have walked over to see a game and property values and everything else, but it didn't happen. But it did. I'll tell you what I did do, the Tropicana thing. We can get into this a little bit. We had a deal with the Tropicana, me and Mike Aponte. All right, Mike?
Yep.
They call him MIT Mike, right?
Yep.
He was from the movie 21 and from Bringing Down the House. He was Frasier in the book. And, he was like a team leader there. And Mike and I have been working for about a year on an invitational world championship of blackjack. And we had a deal. We had a deal with the Trop. And they were going to air it there. We had a TV deal, a streaming deal with Tubi. And everyone goes, Tubi? Well, Tubi, 64 million subscribers. And we had it. And then they contacted us and said, we got to do it in 6 weeks or we can't do it because we're going to close.
Wow.
So it got shut down. But we're now in discussions with Circa. And I'm not saying it's going to happen there, but it could happen there. And it would probably start as an invitational. We would bring in the best players in the world to play. And then the idea is to ramp it up into a World Series type thing where people of poker, where people can buy in and try to become, the world champion of blackjack.
So it'd be a blackjack tournament, an invite-only blackjack tournament.
As of now, we don't know. We don't know what Circa wants to do, and even if Circa is going to partner with us.
So tell us what books you're working on at Huntington Press.
We're working on some really great ones, and I'm having a hard time staying up with them. There's so many good ones. We just put out James Grosjean's Ultimate Report, which is, basically it's basic strategies for all the karting games.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's got a second one called the Lockdown Edition. The Lockdown Edition is all about getting the money, essentially the whole karting. And this is going to be another Grosjean special. I mean, it's going to be a $500-$600 book.
Yeah.
And he's going to be, directing the parade on that one. He's going to call the price. He's going to say who can get it and who can't. The reason, James, when he puts out a book, he only wants certain people to have it. It's like, beyond counting and CAA, certain people he wouldn't sell to. And same thing with the Lockdown Edition. He wants it only to go to people that he okays. He has his reasons for that. But I made a deal with him that the basic strategy book, which is just fabulous, and you get to read what Grosjean's all about, could sell to anybody. And it's on Amazon and everything else, so anyone can buy that book for $34.95 and see how that guy's mind works, which is really quite incredible.
Yeah.
And he's funny. He's a good writer, We've got one called The Advantage Players. It's from Michael Kaplan, who he writes for Cigar Aficionado.
He told me about this.
Yeah. And it's not just about gambling. There's a lot of gambling in there, but it's all about other guys who do other things, including hackers, which was an interesting thing, which I had just finished editing that book, and the chapter about the hackers. So I had a different perspective on it when the MGM thing happened. And I mean, even one guy who cuts locks for a living, and I don't mean like cutting locks to get into buildings, I mean fish. And he parlayed his ability to cut locks into advantage play. And working at Sardell's in New York City. John Chang is in there. Phil Ivey and the girl he worked with, for that, Kelly's son.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to want to read this book. It's a good book.
And what about Las Vegas Advisor?
We're going real hard into member rewards online, coupons that we can do that don't have to be printed and be in a book for the entire year. The EV and the gambling coupons we have in the book alone was $704 this year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Good stuff.
I started with Professional Blackjack and Basic Blackjack, and then the next book I read was Burning the Tables in Las Vegas, which you published.
Oh, Burning.
Yeah.
Okay, you read Burning.
Oh, yeah. I was substitute teaching. I took the cover off because it was mostly private schools.
Right.
And so the kids would be doing study hall or whatever, these high school kids, and I'd be reading Burning the Tables in Las Vegas. And then, on the days I didn't get called to substitute teach, I was in the casinos every day.
Oh, man. Okay, well, that's funny because where I started was with the ones I read, and then very quickly I read Turning the Tables,
which
and that was
right behind me on this bookshelf.
All about how to get the money. It wasn't teaching you how to count cards; it was teaching you how to get away with it, right? Yeah. Science and art. And this was the science was all the ones we read to learn how to count, and the art was getting away with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got a good Ian Anderson story. If you want to hear it,
I want to hear it.
Okay, so I got two. I'm going to tell you two. All right, if we got time. The first one is when he contacted me about Burning the Tables, which came after, all the updates of Turning. I was like, great. One of my heroes, I get to publish Ian Anderson. I've gotten to publish already. I've gotten to publish Griffin, and I've gotten to publish all these other guys that I knew that I came up with, although not Wong. I didn't publish Wong. And Anderson and I had it all set, and he said he's coming to town, and he wanted me to drop off the contract at his casino. And I said, well, we'll just meet. And we'll sign the contracts. He goes, oh, no, we're not going to meet. And I said, well, what do you mean we're not going to meet? I go, we're going to sign the contract. I go, I'm going to publish your book. He goes, no, we're not going to meet. He's just ferociously, secret, right? Doesn't want anybody to see him, know him, anything else. I said, if we're not meeting, I'm not publishing the book. I wanted to meet him, right? I mean, I was friends with Griffin, friends with Wong. I want to meet Ian Anderson, right? It's completely selfish on my part. We go back and forth, and he starts laughing. He goes, you wouldn't publish the book because I won't meet with you? I go, that's right. He goes, okay, we'll meet. So we did, and he signed the contract. And then every time he came to town, we met. Every time we had a beer and whatever.
Once you'd seen him.
Yeah. Now the cat's out of the bag.
That's right.
So here's the other one. He tells me a story. He was famously, he didn't partner with anybody. He was the opposite of you. You're all about team. You're all about get them all together. We'll all play together. We'll share the risk. It's better this way. He played with nobody. He played by himself. So he goes, one day he's playing in a casino, and he sees Ken Houston in the casino. And Ken Houston comes over to his table. And Ian gets up and he moves to another table. And Ken Houston kind of meanders around again. And Ian, moves away. So he goes later that day, Ian Anderson gets into an elevator, and Ken Houston gets into the elevator, and the elevator doors close. And Ian looks at Ken Houston, and Houston goes, "I watch your game." He goes, "You're a pretty good player." And Ian goes, "Get the fuck away from me." And Houston goes, "What?" He goes, "Get the fuck away from me." He goes, "Don't you ever come near me again." And the doors opened, he left. And that was it.
Houston's toxic, probably toxic for his career.
Nothing to do with him. And that's the way.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's the way Ian was. And you know what? A lot of people don't realize what an unbelievably great gambler he was.
Yeah.
Part of the computer group in sports, poker expert.
Wow.
Won several major poker tournaments under pseudonyms.
Wow.
Amazing guy.
So I want to go back to this idea of a big tournament. Any ideas, that timeline, or how people could learn more if they want to get into that?
It's going to be this year. If we're going to do something with Circa or another, I don't know if it will be an invitational only. I don't know if it'll be 25 people. I don't know if it'll be 50, 100. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to want to open it up to the public right away. But I think that if this were to happen, the timeline would be probably invitational at sometime this year, and probably public tournaments before the end of the year.
That would be awesome.
Leading into the next year. In terms of what people should do to be a part of it or anything, just pay attention to the news, watch LVA and things like that, and we'll keep you abreast of what it is, what's going on. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back to your video. I say start with your video. I actually had a guy contact me, Mattress Mac. He said, "I'm about to play a tournament tomorrow. What should I do?" And I sent him a link to your video. I said, "Watch this video."
Awesome.
I said, "You're going to get everything you need to start, right? And go from there." One more thing I would like to say, what's cool about this, what's great about this, is that essentially the cream will rise over time. But in a blackjack tournament, anyone can win. It's not like poker. In a poker tournament, anyone can't win. I mean, if you're a rube, you cannot win. I mean, if you're a kind of a good player, you can get lucky and get close or maybe pull it off. A good example of that would be Moneymaker, who was a good enough player, but he was no rube.
Yeah.
But in blackjack, anybody can win because it's such a small, finite number of hands. If you get lucky, you get hit with a deck, as they say in poker, you get hit with a deck, you can win a blackjack tournament.
For more on tournament blackjack strategy with Anthony Curtis, check out this video.